Welcome to Top Advisor Marketing, where you will learn how to become a prolific online influencer, attract more ideal clients, and grow your practice. Brought to you by Top Advisor Podcasting, a done-for-you podcasting solution built just for trusted advisors. And now, your co-hosts of Top Advisor Marketing, Kirk Lowe and Matt Halloran.
Hello and welcome to another Top Advisor Marketing podcast. Kirk Lowe is joining me today, and we are going to give you something pretty unfreaking believable here. So 2019 is going to be your year. I'm just going to say that out loud now because if somebody says it, it might happen. But we are going to walk you through exactly what we take our clients through and what Kirk has worked on for the last 18 years. And we're going to do this hard and we're going to do it fast. So what you want to do is you want to get a piece of paper. We are going to potentially offer this as a free download for everybody, but we're still talking about that. So you might want to take some notes. And we're going to go through the 4 sections that we have talked about forever, the attract, intrigue, engage, and influence. But we're going to break it down into actionable steps. So Kirk, are you ready to just start flying on this, brother?
I am, but you just gave some interesting advice, some ambiguous advice. Ambiguous instructions. We are definitely going to post this in the show notes. When you go to our site, you're going to have to give us your email address for it, though. That's fair. Our little ask, okay?
All right.
And we pretty much always only share good stuff with everybody from that point on. I wanted to, before we get started, this is going to be a great topic. I'm going to go fast because there's a lot to cover, and we would rather have you guys drinking through a fire hose in this instance, and then you can go to the actual document and kind of spend a little bit more time going through it. But we'll go through it fast in the podcast. But before I get started on that, one of the things that I think it's always good for a company or whoever's the thought leader or whatever we are, that we lead by example, right? And one of the things that I want to make sure all the listeners know is that Matt, what are we at? 150 episodes now?
Yeah, we went over 150.
Yeah. And we went back and we were at a conference recently where we did podcasts for Market Council Summit. And there was one theme, and a theme that rings true in our company and with all of our clients is that, and then all these people we met at Market Council, and these are some people who are CEOs of some really wonderfully successful financial companies, is that Matt is an absolute pro when he does this. Like, I can't believe it. We're having a conversation about what this podcast is going to be. And, we're like anybody, we have busy days and we're, I don't know if scrambling's really the right word because we do prepare well, and then all of a sudden Matt just goes into pro mode on these podcasts. And I can't believe how quickly you turn that switch on, man. So thanks for everything you're doing. And I think there's a lot of grateful people because we get a lot of people who call us and say, I've listened to all your podcasts or a lot of them, and they binge listen when they get into them. And it's been a lot of fun. And 2019 is going to be an incredible year for everybody. And hopefully you guys can see how we're leading by example. But being a pro is at the forefront of creating a great brand. So I'm not going to let you get all mushy here. I was doing it to you. We're going to dive right into this.
All right. Go ahead, man.
Thank you. If you understand the blueprint that we talk about all the time, or that I talk about all the time, because this podcast is about a lot more than me, clearly, with all the wonderful guests that we have. But there's 4 parts to that, and it's attract, intrigue, engage, influence. If you can achieve these things and focus and fill these sections, stages, whatever, I call them different things all the time, of your blueprint, which is merely your marketing plan or your strategy, you will be more successful in 2019. So I'm going to break down what we actually are doing with our clients. I've been doing for many years, but we're doing more and more, which is creating a marketing plan, and I'll call it an organic marketing plan. So what's the stuff that we can't do for you that you can only do for yourself? And a lot of advisors, believe it or not, fall short here. Our most successful advisors embrace what we do, and they do this stuff on their own. And we're trying more and more to instill these best practices and these daily activities that advisors need to do to be more successful with their marketing. And if they do them, you will be. If you don't, you're taking your chances. And that's just the way it is. So we're going to start with the attract, which is the biggest section here, because this is getting people to your brand, to your podcast, to your website, and eventually to your office, right? So I'm going to whip through these. So inspiring referrals is critical. You need to be amazing at what you do. That is why I preempted our podcast today with a little chat about Matt and what a pro he is at doing podcasting. You've got to be great at what you do. That alone will inspire people to want to be around you and talk about you. So make sure you're doing that. You need to spread the word. Sometimes hiring a marketing company to do your marketing for you does not work well. You have to be your own marketing. It's just the way it is. You have to talk about your brand all day with everyone you meet. Clients, prospects, friends, peers, centers of influence, managers, mentors, community evangelists, business network. You can probably fit in some more there. Your dog or your cat probably don't work, but it's still good to get practice. So make sure that you're doing things like this on a consistent basis. You need to join a network or community group. Those things are grassroots. They are huge. We had one of our clients start a podcast. The first two he recorded, put him on his podcast channel, was at his networking group, and it was his turn to talk. He said, "Hey, I just started a new podcast." Somebody who had always admired him in the group, but who had never taken any action, took action. Boom, $1 or $2 million client, just like that. Just for the fact that he had started a podcast, it was different, sounded interesting, boom. That kind of stuff is absolutely critical. Those are the wonderful, quick stories that we talk about. Your podcast didn't make that happen for you. It was just you putting it out there, right? And you have to do that. And good marketing gives you excuse and the confidence to go talk about it. So make sure you talk about it all the time. Join a network group or a community group. Volunteer for a not-profit board. Find out where people like you are hanging out and hang out there. You don't have to make money. You don't have to sell. You just got to hang out there. It'll happen when you do that stuff. Send a referral to somebody. How many advisors want a referral from somebody but don't give them one? If you've got clients who are in business, send them a referral. If you've got peers in your community who you want to send you business, send them a referral first. Do something nice for them. Do not ask or expect anything back. Could be a year before you get a return there. But if you're kind about it, you're generous about it, and you're professional about it, things will happen for you. Ask for referrals. No script. Just ask. Do you know anyone I can introduce my podcast or who would like to download my white paper? If you ask for business, that's kind of needy. I'm not a big fan of that. And some people can pull it off. I think they're lessening the credibility and the trust they have with people. Maybe you can make money off that and you don't really care. But I think if you ask the right kinds of questions to trigger a referral, that's the best way to go. So ask for referrals, but do it in a different way. Just say, do you know anyone that you or I can introduce my podcast or my white paper to? Engage other experts. What are they hearing, learning from their clients? Can you find a solution together? Ask people to go out to coffee. Here's a great one. This is I think our number one tactic, and I'm going to share it right here at the start of this, and you could probably just turn off the show after this. I'm just kidding. Is that if you invite centers of influence to be a guest on your podcast, that is absolutely huge. And that is the number one tactic. We're giving away the farm here, which is kind of what we like to do all the time. And that is a big one. If you can use your podcast to create new centers of influence relationships and leverage those relationships, what happens after that show comes out, that podcast? What happens? That person, center of influence that you want to build a relationship with, is going to share your stuff, your podcast, your brand, you and them on a podcast with their entire audience. That's a big deal. You'll want to have some kind of an agreement in place before you do that. This is probably coming up somewhere else in the I've jumped ahead, but anyway, get those people on your show. And that's huge. And so those could be business owners, celebrities, coaches, artists, musicians, things like that. You can also ask for expert bloggers to contribute to your blog. So you can have if you don't want to do a podcast, you can do a blog. Most people are going to be way more successful and consistent with a podcast because it's more fun, easier to prepare for. And I think there's more valuable and more wins because they can kind of grab a hold of your personality and other things that you might talk about that are harder to get out as a writer. So look for, so newspapers that are downsizing, or find a local writer or journalist to write a blog for you. Doesn't always have to be about financial stuff either, right? Like if you have a certain a lifestyle that a lot of your best clients adhere to, you could write about that, like add value to their life any way you can. And your podcast is the same. It doesn't always have to be about financial topics. That's a tough thing for advisors to get past, but if you can get past it, it's a big deal. Research podcasts that you'd like to be a guest on. They don't have to be local or regional. They could be national if you want to, but see if you can grab some credibility. So find podcasts that you like or you think you'd be a good guest on, and see if you can get there. In order to do that, you probably have to have your own podcast profile sheet. And that's a good idea to have one of those. So just all you need to do is say, here's who I am. Here's the kind of business I own, and here's the topics that I can talk about, and give a couple of key talking points, and let them know the kinds of audience that you think would be interested in what you talk about. So that'll be a good way to do that. You could put that on your website. It could create it but turn it into a PDF. And one really good idea is use the Canva tool to do that. So canva.com, you cannot have any excuses about creating something that looks decent to put out into the world. So have your assistant or somebody you know, or probably not yourself, but go create one of those profile sheets. Very easy to do in Canva. So it's canva.com. So create a monthly newsletter that's actually interesting. Advisors if you're using a canned service, that's not going to do much. Top of mind awareness, you'll achieve a little bit of that, but you're kind of annoying them because you're sending them stuff that's not really something that they need in their life. Once in a while to be an interesting article of people, but most of the time they're just throwing a bunch of different topics at people. So I think the best idea there is to make a newsletter that's about you, your community, what people that you know are doing in the community, and things like that. That's way more personable, way more successful. And that'll be something that you might be more interested sharing in social media and getting more people to sign up for. So especially if you've got something interesting that you do, like if you're, there's a guy that we met at a conference who was reinvigorating a historic area in his city, and he was known for doing that. And so he could talk about those issues in a newsletter and get a lot of engagement from an audience, right? So find something that you love to do, inject that into your financial newsletter, and go for it. Look for opportunities to leverage peer bloggers, podcasters, vloggers who work with your audience and co-market when possible. So if you know other people who are sharing their thought leadership, find ways to partner with them. Reach out, say hi. Sometimes they might even seem like they do some similar stuff to you, but find ways to engage that audience and see if you can partner. Find online portals, so websites, where your audience hang out and consume content, and find a way to partner with them by adding value to their audience. So find if there's a local or even bigger than local or regional or national site where you think your clients might hang out, or your prospective clients might hang out. Figure that out and see if you can get content on their sites. Say, hey, would you like my podcast? Here's my RSS feed, or I write blog posts, whatever it may be. The last one here is to hand out a content promo card everywhere you go. So if you have a podcast or if you have a white paper, put the URL on one side of the card for your podcast, on your paper on the other, and hand those things out. Get people to engage. Like, why just wait for digital media? You meet people all the time. Get them into the stuff that you're doing. You wouldn't believe the conversation that would create handing out a content promo card. So people who work with us now, we actually print these for them through Vistaprint, which is so easy to get done. Design it in Canva, get it printed through Vistaprint. 500 cards is what? $50, $100, not even that. Hand these suckers out every time you meet somebody. They're not really called suckers, but okay. So that's attract. So intrigue is, having a better story. How do you do things that are going to make you more interesting? You'd probably start with some of these things in the order of how you build, but execution-wise, it's attract, intrigue, engage, influence. So intrigue. Sorry, Matt, anything to talk about? Because it's just a one-way show right now.
No, you just keep rolling, brother. This is awesome.
Okay. So going as fast as I can here for everybody so you can get back to your holiday or your New Year planning. So intrigue. So create a new campaign that builds on or supports your existing brand. So what can you do that's new and fresh, but still builds on the brand that you already have? Think about an angle. Think about what people are worried about in 2019. Think about what's in the news, what's not really going to go away in a couple of days or a couple of months, and see if you can create a campaign and make that synergized with your brand and the story that you're already telling. So reinvent yourself. Find an image consultant. We've had one of them on our show, Patty Morrison, right? She's done a couple shows. Go back and listen to those podcast episodes with us. She was absolutely fantastic. Search for somebody, get a new wardrobe, a new style, new glasses, new office, new reception. Do some stuff that not only reinvent yourself, but reinvigorates you. And believe it or not, there's always opportunities to improve your look, feel good about yourself, and look like you're moving up, right? Just like the Jeffersons. Bad joke. So hire a local brand consultant or image consultant to help you with that stuff. Reinvent your client experience. Maybe just something as simple as a new beverage in your waiting room, better service, virtual meetings for your clients instead of them feeling like they always have to drive through traffic to get to you. Do something nice for every A client once a year, or all your clients. You can change the amount or of expense or how you show gratitude for their business. Just do something a little different. A neat thing too is you could change. I was talking about reinventing yourself, new wardrobe. You could actually get new art in your office too, right? Find a local artist and support them. Just think of the people who would know an artist and appreciate them and their art showing up in your office. Maybe you could sell their art in your office. Maybe that goes to charity. There's so many neat things that you can do to engage your community. Maybe even get a story written about how you're supporting local artists. Once a year, you find a new artist and you fill up your halls with it. When clients come in to meet with you, just think of that experience, right? It's who do you have this year? I think so. There's all kinds of neat things you can do. And by the way, I thought of that one on the fly. It's not in our. That's how it goes with me. Anyhow, start a foundation or organize a charitable event. So. I find we started doing this a couple of years ago with our clients is that if you're an advisor and your financial company or your practice sponsor a non-charitable or a not-for-profit event, I always feel like there's a bit of okay, these guys are looking for business from us. But if you create your own foundation, that foundation sponsors, then what happens is it creates conversations instead of the mindset, oh, geez, it's an advisor looking for a way to meet wealthy people at these kinds of events, if that makes sense. So when you do a foundation, what we've seen is these advisors it's creating a lot of conversations about the foundation, and people want to get involved, and they're like, oh, well, you're a financial advisor too. It's a neat angle, and it's not hard to set up a foundation, right? I mean, the bigger it gets, obviously there's more complications, but consider doing something like that. And it should be an extension of your brand, by the way. So think of something that's really drives you and make that the name of your podcast or your foundation. Sorry. So help not-for-profits, organize events, or you organize your own, and then get them on your podcast as an advertisement, right? So maybe you listen to somebody for 10 minutes and then you bring them on for 5, or maybe you have them on for the whole time. Just think of how much your community would appreciate you promoting a big event that you care a lot about, giving them some time on your podcast. And if your podcast reaches, 50 people or 100 people or 500 people or 1,000, that's great for everybody, right? Your podcast doesn't have to reach 1,000 people a month, by the way, to be successful. Just be good at it and let it grow and let people talk about you. That's the biggest win. Organize an event that adds value to your unique audience's world. So, hire or charter a boat, hire a local fishing or hunting guide, local airplane dealer, an outdoor shop. Have people that add value to your client's life and lifestyle, and bring them in. So we were talking earlier about having different people on your podcast. This is a way to engage these people to have an actual experience with your clients out doing something interesting, right? So do interesting stuff that your audience cares about. And it could be that you have somebody who's always thought they'd love to fish, but they don't know how to fish. and you take them out fishing, and it becomes a passion for them, or not. Have wine and cheese on the bank of the river and fishing in the river. Just kidding. Maybe a bad idea, but create a one-pager on you being a guest podcaster. Actually, I already talked about this. I'll say it again. Create that one-pager of you being a guest podcaster. Change the focus of your podcast. So I've already talked about this a little bit. What other ways can you add value to your ideal client's world or life? Right. So talk about more than just financial and be open to that. Same could be true about your blog. I talk about podcasts all the time because I'm constantly trying to sell our company. But you can certainly do that with your blog. So read more books, attend more events, expand your universe. The more you read books, the more you talk about what you learn in those books, and you become a more interesting, wise person. So and when you're out at an event and you learn something new or you experience something new, you can bring that back into your world. It's huge, right? We went to a Market Council Summit in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and we're still talking about it. I know you're thinking, I don't talk about all these other events, so I better get out more, and I will. I promise I'm going to get out more in 2019. So that's the intrigue section. Now we're going to go into the engage. When people hear about you and you've introduced them, how do you engage them? One of the best ways to do that is with a white paper. Do not get terrified about writing a white paper. Go listen to our podcast episode that talks about how to write your own white paper. It's not the most complicated thing in the world, I'm telling you. We have a template that you can follow that makes it much easier to do. So be focused, niche that paper out, find out what your audience really cares about. It's got to be all educational, cannot be any point of sale in there. Do not sell. If you're selling them in there, it should only be to something, to listen to your podcast or something else that's educational. Write about being a business owner too. You don't have to just write about financial topics. Write about the similarities of your hobby and planning. So if you're a fly fisherman, figure out how that, the commonalities between being good at that and being good at planning or saving in your world, right? Find new ways to promote your existing content. So use new words or new images or revise your updated versions of your white papers and add value through like a checklist. So if you're writing a white paper and there's a risk, a wealth risk on there that you describe, then maybe say, well, here's 5 questions or 5 things you need to look out for to make sure this risk isn't going to be a problem for you, and create a little checklist, either within that document, or if it's a 30-point checklist, create an extra document. That's a document then that you can use in a meeting or with a client or a prospect, or put out into the world that adds value to what you do for people. So think about that too. Create an on-demand video discussing key financial concepts or myths in front of a whiteboard, like a back of a napkin kind of style. So do like a raw, if there's a concept that you do that would be really good to describe visually, get a whiteboard, get some good cameras in place, and describe that video. Maybe that goes into like a nurture sequence or something where people have already shown some interest. Throw it on your blog, talk about it in your podcast. I'm going to take a drink of water here. Pardon me. So there's all kinds of ways that you can engage people, but a video, paper are really good ways. Maybe something like a Facebook contest or a Facebook photo contest on your client's favorite place to vacation or interesting life events that they're going through. Just show that you care and you're interested about seeing about the things that planning for wealth do for them in their life. So little things like that, think about those. Draft a press release about business milestones that you've gone through. The fact that you have drafted a new white paper, or that you've launched a podcast, or that you hit your 25 podcast, episode, or your 100th podcast episode, wherever it may be. Think about ways to put out what you're doing so that people come back to you. Influence is the last section here, as I'm weakening by the second my voice. Apparently, I've never talked this much. Be highly organized in how you create and distribute your expertise and thought leadership. Think about how you're going to put your stuff out there and then execute it. Don't over plan or over promise, right? If you think you can only do one social message a week, stick to that, but make it good and have a plan So you're going to have something to actually send and put out there. If you can do twice a week, figure out what content you're going to do twice a week and figure it out. One of the things that advisors forget to do a lot is when you're out living your life, you think it's maybe silly or odd to take a picture of it. People like to know that you're out living your life. And you're not going to share it every minute on Facebook. But if you share that kind of stuff once a week or even a couple times a month, they're going to appreciate that. So make sure you have opportunities and make sure that you're as professional as you can be, even when it's personal, right? If you're wearing the sloppiest whatever, maybe that's not the right time, but you don't have to be wearing a suit, but just, it's good for people to see your life, be yourself, capture an event or something or a passion of yours or something that's good for the community and share it once in a while. That's huge on Facebook in particular. Do everything with a simple yet elegant style. It's kind of what I was just hinting to. Like, try to always be as professional as you can in the moment. If it's personal, be personally elegant. If it's business, be professionally elegant, right? But make sure that everything you do is you. Don't try to not be you. Be yourself. And that's a great way to influence people, is when they see who you really are. Give them a glimpse at who you are in your life and who you are in the community, who you are in business, and who you are as a financial advisor, obviously. Hire an integrator to do the small stuff. We've just talked about a lot of things that are actually small, but they add up, and they're going to be things that you're not going to be great at doing. So hire an integrator or an implementer. Have somebody that you can reach out to and they can get this stuff done all the time. And if your team can't do it right now, figure out how you're going to get that done. We did a podcast with a virtual assistant who I think she has a company, right? So she can get you virtual assistants. And go back and listen to that episode, because she had some great ideas and thoughts on that, and gave you some best practices that you can follow when you're looking for a virtual assistant, if I remember correctly. Speak at a local, regional, national events whenever possible. Get out there and share what you know. And don't be afraid. If you're not comfortable with it, start small and build up and have some fun getting your message out there. Don't just do it on the sound waves or digitally or in your office or on the phone one-on-one. Expand your universe. Try something different. So you might even want to set a goal. How many times you want to do this over the year, over the month, stuff like that. When you do speak in simple terms about how you help people and solve challenges in their lives. Provide analogies, real life stories, and what an actual client went through. I know you have to be careful, compliance reasons, but have stories and analogies. You can certainly do these things one-on-one. Have a plan, have go-to stuff ready to go. Sometimes I find this with myself. I have a lot of stories, and sometimes I don't always pick the best one because I have so many. Something will trigger a story. Have your go-to stories lined up for the year. Decide on what analogies are the analogies for 2019 and try to stick to those. It might seem a little bit redundant to you, but it's not going to be redundant to them because they're new people all the time. So speak in simple terms, figure out what your best stories are going to be, your analogies, case studies, all that kind of stuff, and be strategic. Share resources that helps you learn about financial planning, running a business, and enjoying life. There's things that have helped you as a business owner, as a husband, a wife, a mother, a father, a grandmother, a grandfather, all these things. Think about what's moved you along and share that stuff with people and tell them how it moved them along. Let people experience what your life and your business and your trajectory has been like, and be honest and generous about that. And that's kind of a great theme to lead up to kind of, this is the end of the list. Matt, I'm going to let you take that one away because you got a lot of thoughts on generosity and how it can impact somebody's life and business.
Well, I think this podcast, by you sharing 18 years of wisdom, is a perfect example to tell you all that we walk the walk and we know that this is how you can be successful. You don't have any real secret sauce, not to be mean, but really most of what all of you do has been done by somebody else. But the difference is if you're open and share it willingly with the right attitude, that you're truly there to help somebody without asking for anything in return, that is where things change. This overall idea, when Kirk showed this to me 3 years ago or whenever I first saw these four steps, I resisted, and I've talked about that on the podcast with you, Kirk, before, but I didn't want to give away the kitchen sink, for lack of a better description. And since you and I have been doing this podcast, since we have been openly sharing what makes Top Advisor Marketing successful, what we do for our clients, what we don't do well for our clients, what we needed to change, we have become what we want all of you to become, which is that influencer in the space, a company that you can go to, listen to a 30-plus minute podcast, and change your business without having to pay us a dime. There are a lot of you who don't want to do this yourself, but there are a lot of you who can do this yourself. We don't really care. What we want you to do is to get your message out into the marketplace, because there's a lot of really crappy noise, and you all know that. There's something about being unique and different. There's something about being a real financial advisor that needs to get out into the public. And if you follow everything that Kirk just outlined here, you download this paper, which will have a link in the show notes and a link for Canva. And if you have not used Canva, it's one of the easiest programs you can possibly use for graphic design. You can create these things. You can do this stuff yourself and truly make 2019 the year you have always wanted it to be, where people are talking about you. You're not the only one. So with that, Kirk, you got any closing thoughts, brother?
Have an incredible 2019, and come back and listen to us and share us whenever you can. Our goal when starting this podcast was, I'll be honest, the most important thing that we wanted to do was to give back. We can't stop selling what we do. I mean, that's okay. But I mean, hopefully you guys know this is 99% education and 1%, hey, we run a business too. But it really was started because we thought we needed to find a way to get in front of more people, and it wasn't working with just our blog. And man, we were right.
Yeah. Holy Moses.
The amount of people listen to our podcast, and us being generous and opening it up to other professionals to speak, it's been a really fun year. It's been the biggest momentum year we've ever had, and I would say podcasting is and our spirit of generosity in bringing other people and not just being about us was a huge one too. Yeah. And so we wishes you a lot of momentum in 2019.
So here is the ask that we're going to have. Number one, make sure that you have subscribed to the podcast if you haven't subscribed to it yet. Make 2019 your year of podcasts. If anybody has any questions about what podcasts they should listen to, just message Kirk or I on social media. I'd be more than happy to tell you some of the podcasts that we listen to that we absolutely love. Number two, please leave a comment or a rating on this podcast. If you think this is a good podcast, please give us 5 stars. Please just put a quick note in there. Great, wonderful, whatever. That would be spectacular. And then last but not least, share the podcast with other people. If you go through all of these steps that Kirk went through, attract, intrigue, engage, and influence, again, sharing goes through all of those. Being your own advocate goes through all of those. Being proud of who you are and what you do goes through all of those. And we want to emulate that for all of you at Top Advisor Marketing. And of course, if there is anything that we can do to help you have the best year you've ever had in 2019, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We would love to help you out. So for Kirk Lowe and everybody at Top Advisor Marketing, have a magnificent 2019, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.
Are you ready to change the way you communicate with your clients? Are you tired of being the best kept secret in your area? Learn how to become a prolific online influencer, attract more ideal clients, and grow your business. Contact us today and see what the power of podcasting can do for your business. Click on the Contact Us link on our website at topadvisormarketing.com and set up a call to learn more. Follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook for more updates and information.
This was brought to you by Iris.xyz, a platform helping financial professionals become better in business and life through new media and new voices. Visit them and learn more at iris.xyz.